Hello everyone and welcome to another Masterclass. This one is a special one, not only because Will Hagen is a distinguished world-class soloist, but also because he's a lifelong friend. Will and I grew up in the same area and took from the same teacher, and to have him now work with my students feels like a full circle moment. In 2015, Will took third place in the prestigious Queen Elizabeth competition, basically the Olympics for the violin, which launched his career, and he has been an active performing soloist ever since. He performs on a Stradivarius from 1732 and on a bow by Francois Xavier Tort. In this masterclass, you'll get a glimpse into what is in the mind of soloists as they practice and prepare for the big stage, and get to hear truly phenomenal playing throughout. Enjoy, and I hope you learn as much as I did.
Fabulous. Okay, it sounds fantastic. My overall, David, should I stand like?
I think over there's good.
Yeah. Okay, so my biggest overall comment is that it sounds a little too dignified. It's a little bit, and I think you can just dig in like crazy in this piece. So, I mean, right at the start. It just, I hear like I hear too much release. So it's kind of a bit Mozart-y the way you're playing it, a bit. I'm not fully Mozart-y, but. And then it's 1, 2, and it's not 1, 2, 3. It's. So really subdivide that. And try that again right at your entrance. Let's make more of a phrase there. So it's a pretty long phrase. And one of the things that I kind of noticed while you were playing, whether it's this place or other places, I often found you picking a note where you felt the tension. So for instance, and then I'd get the climax of the phrase, but not the build to it. Okay. Does that make sense? So it's kind of like if you have a sentence with a particularly, like there's a word in there, like, oh man, this week was great. It's kind of better if it's, oh, this week was great. You know what I mean? So try to lead us to that most important note a little bit better. Just go maybe right on that second phrase. And then right here, I think that can be an even. I kind of hear just a little too hard. Because what we've had is a lot of hard starts. You see how I'm trying to use the bow differently. And when I say use the bow differently, I don't mean, I think it's easy to think just, oh, I'm going to do this special thing with the bow. It's actually much better if it's really visually obvious for the audience for two reasons. First of all, it makes the change much better. And then the audience can see that you've changed something. It's a little bit constricting if. See, if I'm staying compact, if I'm kind of playing it all the same in terms of just the basic math of the bow, it doesn't matter how hard I try, it's not going to sound that different. So why don't you play just like the first measure and then go to. And then when you go to there, just as smooth and broad as you can get. Yeah, so now if we know that we're going to go to smooth and broad, let's do it even more the opposite of smooth and broad. Okay, and now to the. Okay. That was better, yeah. So this is the place where when you played it through the first time I heard. And it's better. See, it's funny, no matter how hard, and the other thing is that it's just easier to sink into the violin if you go. I can try my hardest to sink in, but if I don't have momentum going into it, it doesn't work. Yeah. It's so much easier just physically to do it.
I'll start the beginning with that.
Yeah. And then I would not resolve it too soon. So. I'd wait till there. So this is it's not a slow movement, it's not a fast movement, but these are long phrases. And if you go climax, okay, I'm back, climax, okay, I'm back, then it actually gets more monotonous, even though the shape is more like this, of the phrases. It's not as, there's not as much of that kind of narrative flow. We can't follow, we're not hearing kind of like the paragraph, we're just hearing the words in the sentences, if that makes sense. So you want to really tell a story with this piece. It's really, it's not like some big complicated melody, right? It's really just 3 notes. And then, I don't know, it's really simple. So I think just kind of an overall, what I'm kind of saying with like build to those important notes and everything is maybe just try to lengthen those phrases so you have more slow climbs and slow descents rather than individual moments. Do you want to try the middle section a little bit?
So right in the 6/4 kind of?
Yes. Maybe, or yeah. So I want you to kind of, you have a lot of these 8th notes followed by an 8th note rest. I think you can just kind of if you go bo da da boo da da boop boo. It's just it's a little. This is what I'm talking about. It's a little too dignified.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, and then right here, you need to use a lot more bow. It sounds like I'm playing ridiculously loud, but imagine a full orchestra. And I know you recently played with a full orchestra. That's a lot of sound. It's a lot of sound. So, if you and I started to play the same notes at the same time, there'd just be a big jump in dynamic. And if we added a third and fourth player, generally you have the least you have 6 violinists. And that would be for like a reduced Baroque sort of Vivaldi Four Seasons sort of orchestra. Yeah. There are a lot of just pure numbers behind you. And even if they're not playing with you, it sounds a little wrong to go from like the volume way up here to down here. So if you play, it's forte right there, but you need to play just more bow, more space so that you just get that bigger, broader sound. Can you try that? And really take a risk. Try to make a bad mistake. Yeah. Yeah. And then I would. So just a word of advice for harmonics in general to basically everybody. If you have a big jump like that, you want to paint the fingerboard into it and then release the finger like right into it. Because if I go, I start to hear it kind of an ugly. You hear that kind of squeakiness?
So you're keeping that.
Yeah, so you scoop the fingerboard into it. Yeah, and then I'd practice holding the harmonic too long with too much bow. Yeah, and then release that harmonic. Yeah. So watch this. You hear that? And here, so that's option one. That's if I don't. I'm doing the same thing, except for just I'm letting. So you actually need to pick up your finger before the note's over. Yeah. Here, let's practice it so we get to the harmonic. Yeah, and then let it go right before you get off the string with the right hand. So, yeah. Yeah, that was perfect. That was perfect. And it's harder up there than down here. It's like my favorite trick on the violin. Yeah. You actually need to learn how to do this trick if you want to have a really bright harmonic. But basically, if you hit, you only need to actually. Isn't that cool?
Oh, that's interesting.
And it's not just like a cool party trick. It's also it makes for a better sound. So if I go, it's dead. But if I go, it's still ringing. Yeah. So anyway, with these, that harmonic speed. But let it go. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Do you hear? Oh wow. Okay, yeah. It just lets it out. It lets it out. Sure. Okay. Anyway, I got sidetracked. Let's go on from.
Okay. So.
I would be starting. Like, I would start at the frog. So, yeah. I think you need that bow, not for volume, but for clarity. So if I go, it doesn't sound that much. It doesn't actually sound that much quieter, right? So I'm doing a dense sound this way. It's just a little clearer. Yeah! And then same thing. Don't be dignified. And then you can really play, don't do it the same way twice.
Okay.
Try it again. You're playing that really, really well. Play it 2 clicks, like literally 2 clicks slower, so that you don't notice it's slower, or that we don't notice it's slower, but you feel like you're playing slow. Okay. And then really hold on to that F sharp. Play it a little longer and vibrate it.
Okay.
Yeah. So, just a warning, I know exactly how you feel. You can get to a point in a piece like this where you're playing it super well. You've probably performed it a few times. Mm-hmm. This can turn into just blur. I would, I'd practice the rhythms. I'd practice it slowly up the metronome. This is a place where it can really easily turn into just blur, I'd really play every single note. If you try, can you go ba ba da ba ba da, like play it really. Yeah, and I'd practice it even, more metronomic than that, and then. Yeah, and I'd leave a lot of bow for that. Yeah. Yeah, and then you're using a whole bow. I would use like a little more than a whole bow. If that's what I mean by that is. Like, just let it go. I'm kind of seeing you go. Just because you want it to sparkle. And if you're putting the brakes on to fit in those notes, it's never going to really sparkle. It could. Yeah! Oh my gosh. And then I would, so, the down bow into the up bow, I'd just be glued to the string. Right now I hear a little bit. Yeah! Yeah, and this is so show-offy. It's you know, and it's funny. Even if you're a humble person, even if you don't like to show off, you're an actress right now and you're playing a role. This actress is not like humbly asking for something. This is. I mean, it's just got to be big and bold and go for it. Try this time to just have a really straight spine. I see some, you know, headbutting. Just like big, broad shoulders. Play taller than you are. Okay, I want to try one more time and try to get the whole bow involved. You're kind of maybe 2/3. Just really too much sound, too big. Because actually, it's interesting. You're standing right there, and I'm right here, and you know we're really close. And even at this distance, I'm kind of hearing ba da 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 instead of da da ba da da. So those little notes separate have to be really firm. Can you, on the down bow that starts on the F sharp, ya dum ba da da. So so you're at the middle right now. I go. Yeah, and then so this is, I think it's really interesting. I know it sounds like I'm just playing play loud, play loud, play loud. It's when you practice playing loud and your knee-jerk volume gets a little higher, it doesn't make it less musical, it makes it more musical, because then when you play piano, it makes a real big difference. And actually you learn that you're just adding layers to your dynamics. So if you go, it sounds cool, but it's just sparklier and bigger, and I think you need that. Right now I see you really actively using kind of this much. Okay. And if you could add this and add that, oh, it'll be awesome and more fun. Yeah. Yes. Okay, and now, after telling you to play super, super loud and super hard, so this is why, is because the louder that previous part is, the better this. So I was really hard, and I had fast beginnings to strokes, and now we've got something totally different. And yours is a little bit not as different as I would like. Let's try it even just. Yeah, there you go. Beautiful. Can we have there's something, I don't play those. I wouldn't play those the same way. You know, there's an opportunity there for something to catch the ear. So I go yamba. Yeah, and then a little bit lighter on that harmonic. So I go to the B flat and come away from the harmonic. Okay. Yeah. Oh, and then just a little bit more. Just a little bit more. Can you get? Yeah. So it's interesting if you watch somebody like David Oistrakh. Have you ever watched David Oistrakh? Yeah. He spends a lot of time off the string, like a lot of bow off the string, like little things like.
Okay. Yeah.
It sounds really different than. Same amount of bow here, different amount of bow above the string. So it's a lot more energy. Bum, bum, bum. Can you go, yeah. So, and this is the kind of thing, if you start really going for it, you're gonna make a lot of mistakes, you know, a lot of kind of crash landings and whatnot. You're not right now. But those are good mistakes because if you're challenging yourself to use more bow, you're getting better at using the bow. You know, when you're quite compact with the bow, you have to kind of balance between being too reckless and then also you want to be able to use a lot of bow because it just makes for more expressive playing. It's not necessarily louder playing or, you know, it is louder at a lot of points, but even in quiet stuff, if you're able to really control more of the bow, it opens up a lot of possibilities.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, last thing.
Yeah.
It's gonna sound wrong. Boom. Boom. Because if you just go, if you don't do that with total confidence at the end, then it's like, why is she pitching not with the orchestra? You know, it just sounds, it sounds like a mistake. Can you just perform the absolute crap out of that?
Okay, we'll do the one together.
And by the way, just one other thing. I don't know what it's marked, but I would add 3 or 4 dynamics to pizzas. I'm serious. I know that sounds ridiculous, but like piano, especially if you're a soloist, has to be, you know, it has to be really present. Louder than that?
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, boom.
Okay.
Boom. And I would do the first one. The first one maybe.
Louder.
Yeah, you phrase it.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Cool. And you can be even more suspense. You know, really play those rests. Anyway, bravo. It sounds so good.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
I'm actually going to go ahead and tune your A and D again. And don't, so this right here is a risky thing to do because there's almost 100% chance that it falls back. Mm-hmm. So it's a very temporary fix. Try to use the peg and get it, and crank it. It's really interesting. It made a big impression on me. You know, I didn't really think about tuning. I thought about the playing. Mm-hmm. And then when you're on stage and you have to tune, you're like, oh my gosh, this is really hard. You know, it's really nerve-wracking. So I think it's worth really practicing tuning a lot and really getting good at the pegs because the pegs are faster than the fine tuner and everything. So anyway, that's just my tuning spiel. Okay. Great. That was a great performance. So I think one of the things I want to say to you is I think you can go on offense a little bit more with your bow. There's a lot of really controlled things like that. And there's really nothing to fault because the articulation's good and everything, but I think you just like little things like that. I think you can start to get the bow off the string more. So let's go from the very beginning and try to use even more bow than you used the first time.
Yeah.
And be a little reckless, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, great, perfect. That was great. One thing I would do is, so if you're singing this, would you go boom, da, da, da? You wouldn't sing that D. You wouldn't sing the B either. You'd sing the G. And right now I kind of hear. So I'd balance over. I'd just make sure that you that we hear more of that G. Just right on that. Just so I think I hear. So watch my bow. See how I'm getting to the G right there? I'd try to get to the G by right there. It's interesting. Just a word about playing chords and kind of about how things are heard. The beginning of a stroke is always the part of the stroke that's the easiest to be heard on. It's really hard to muscle out the middle of the bow. So, even if I use that much bow, you don't really notice that I'm not using that much bow on the beat. You just kind of hear maybe a slightly more rolled chord or something. So it's going to be heard. The D and the B are going to be heard because they begin the stroke. So you actually don't need much bow on them. And I would like more bow for just, let's try that. And so I'm hearing, but so the that very first note. A little bit longer. I hear that. And then if you add a little bit of vibrato. And then let's keep going. So let's try it one more time. It sounds so good. I don't want to even mess with it too much, but instead. If you can just keep the bow, don't let the bow stop. Try it one time and just get a little sloppy, but don't let the bow stop. And I say this knowing that you put in a lot of work. It's really, really well controlled. And it's, I may be creating more problems, than I'm solving, but I think just kind of let the bow, kind of let it go to end a note instead of coming to a complete stop. Yeah, and then I think, I wouldn't end it too big. It's not, So just go from. And then I'm just gonna, so, you know, there's so many C's in a row. I think you gotta have different C's. Just do anything to show us that you're aware that you're repeating yourself. Because it's really weird in conversation. It's really weird to just repeat yourself with the exact same inflection. It's like a glitch in the Matrix, or like, you know, the person, it's like, what's wrong with them? So you would never do it in conversation. Try not to do it, even in just that little tiny phrase. I mean, it seems like such a small thing. But if you go, you're not adding anything. Just anything. Try it. It's an idea. Try another one. Yeah, you know, and I think now it's a little bit too obviously less and more. Mm-hmm. It can even just be the kind of the speed with which you start the stroke. Try it again, and then let's go on after this one. But keep experimenting, you know, after today. Okay, and then this sounds very forte right here. And you know, after all, in the Lalo I was talking about, you gotta play loud, loud, loud. But this is ba-dum, ba-doom, ba-doom, ba-doom. So if I go ra-da-ba-da, you know, it's like, it's a mismatch right there, you know? So. And you can use the exact same amount of bow, just literally softer. And when I say softer, just your hand is softer. If you have a kind of a harder hand, you're going to get. So I'm still using quite a lot of bow, but, you know, really relax. Just go right on the. Actually, okay, and then right there. I want to see what I don't think he marked an articulation there. And I hear quite a firm ba-ba-da, ba-ba-da. And I would maybe, if you're going to do that, do it the second time. Just, and that E can be quite smooth. Right there, it's so good, But I wouldn't end that D, because I hear. So you're getting ready for that note. We're getting ready for that note, but we don't want to know that you're getting ready for that note. You know what I mean? We want to just hear the note. Because if there's that break right there, it's like a comma that you didn't mean to have. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Yeah. So doesn't make a lot of sense, but so you're actually headed to those G sharps. And then you got two G sharps. You know, it's the same thing. You got the same thing twice, The first one's on the harshest, loudest, brightest string, and the second one's on the dullest, warmest, the D string. So I would play into that. Try it again. And I think you were almost to smooth. You were like, just bring that in and, under your hand. Just kind of go like that. Yes. And then that has so this is another place where it's, so we'd had, so Mozart, in this and in lots of his music, there's basic contrast between short and smooth. And that goes for basically every composer, but especially at this time. It's really interesting. If you play Bach, you get one dynamic marking per 5 pages of solo music. So he just does not use dynamics, but what he uses is harmony and articulation. So where a slur starts and stops, and whether a note is slurred or not is a big deal. And we have so what we've had slurs, but they're really short. So I'd have very much the opposite beginning. I wouldn't go bodum, bodum, I begin that with a wah, ma, la, something, nothing too consonant right there. Does that make sense?
Mostly.
So basically, when you've got a very smooth thing, I wouldn't begin it not smooth, is what I'm saying. So where do we want to go from? Oh, we are. Okay. Oh, that's all right. Of security. I think that's what I would say for most of it. If we're running out of time here, I would just say I think it's really, really fun to play Mozart. I think almost more than any other composer, you can really clearly say, this is cheerful, this is sad. This is a smiley face, this is a frowny face, and that's just where you need to start out. If it's smiley face or if it's frowny face, and then does this sentence end with a exclamation point, a period, ... know your punctuation. And when in doubt, how would you do that with your own voice? How would you make a question? You'd end up kind of like this. And if you do that with the bow, you're going to get a question. And so that's what I would say. I think you can just add a little bit of punctuation. Cool. Beautiful.
Thank you.
It's really great. It's really, really great. One thing that I think you need to do is not play with your very biggest, best sound in this beginning. So think about this real quick. Just look at the bow. It's on one plane. It's just sitting on, So nothing's interrupting this line. And then you're going, you're rocking. So you're breaking up this, and it's going to be a much harder thing to get a big sound on this than just this. So I think you need to really try to play quiet. And it's really hard to balance away from that D string. It's so loud. But basically, and there are two reasons, you're going to go to the yum bum 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 yum bum bum bum. So that's one reason I'd hold back. And then you're also going to go to the, you're going to get really crazy. So I wouldn't start with this nice big firm sound, even though it sounds great. It sounds great. What it sets you up for is less contrast. So try it again and try maybe a little bit uncomfortably, not your biggest, best sound, kind of a mezzo or even a piano. Keep going. So, yeah, and then I'd really... So you're very nicely not playing with perfectly flat hair here. Because you don't want that solid sound. But now we want the solid sound. And what I'm going to try and do is really break those chords quickly. And spend as much time on the E string as I can with flat hair. Yeah! That's much better. Keep going. Right there, it's good to play in here because we've got this funny acoustic where it's really live right here and then dry out there. And so we need clarity, and both times I really couldn't really hear. Really try to, I don't know. I think it's very hard to articulate that because that open D string is the obstacle to this whole beginning. It's just hard to balance. So I'd really play as articulately as you possibly can on the A. So when in doubt, when you're trying to bring something out in a chord, balance to it as fast as possible. Because I think what you're doing is you're getting to a place where it's easier to make, because at the tip, look at all this. We're shrinking the distance of the rock. But I think you just need that little bit more bow, so I would balance over as quick as you can to the A string. Yeah, and just spend more time on the A string too. It's just time. So if you're trying to bring out clarity in a grace note, it's not punching the, the fingerboard more that's going to bring it out is time. And same thing here. If I'm trying to bring out that A string, if I just spend more time on the A string, that's what's going to bring it out. See, if I'm insistent about try that. Yeah. Yeah, it's not too much. Okay. Even though it seems like you're really, really exaggerating, especially that second, this, the first time I was like, I know the piece kind of by ear, but I was like, I know she's playing it. It was very dim, very, very dim. So this, now I can hear it. Okay. So I would really exaggerate it. In general, it's not just, in the Mozart, in the Lalo, in most things, you'd be shocked how much you have to exaggerate. Shocked. I've been shocked. So just a brief diversion. I recorded an album, and it was really interesting. You get done recording, and then the recording engineer says, "Okay, I have these spots," and me and the pianist, we had our spots too. And the recording engineer said, "Hey, can we go to bar such and such? There's a crescendo here. I'm not really hearing much of it." And I go, "Oh, okay, yeah, we'll do it again." And we do it again. I play the most crescendo-y crescendo that I've ever crescendoed. And he's like, can we try that again? There's a crescendo there. And I go, I know there's a crescendo. I was gonna go, okay, I'll do it again. I tried it a second time, a third time, and it kept coming back. And I was like, okay, can I come back and listen? And I listened, and it was zero crescendo. Like really hard to hear. And it just showed me like, oh, I have to exaggerate so much. So even though it seemed maybe to you like you're like da 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 da, you're like kind of talking down to the audience, you need to do that, or else it kind of gets lost in translation. And dynamics too, they have to be so big and over the top. Anyway, let's go to that middle section. The biggest thing about the middle section, which sounds great, is just more hair. So so just kind of sit back and try to play with flatter hair. Okay, and I have a suggestion, which is going to sound funny. You are nailing the absolute crap out of those high notes. It's awesome. It's great. But what's happening is we're going 1, 2, 3, boom, boom, boom. And I think it'd be cool to go. So I want you to try it. Don't even vibrate the top. Yeah. Okay. So the thing you want to show off on is not how awesome your third finger vibrato is. It's how quick can you get to those octaves. Okay. Does that make sense? Yeah. Maybe try that last shift. Yeah.
Wrong one, but hey.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you nailed it. Try it again. Yeah. So this is a risky thing to say because I don't want you to actually, not play the F sharp, but you're in transition almost the minute you hit the high F sharp. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And you want to balance the awesomeness. Paganini is 100% not humble, all about showing off. It's really like so over the top show off music. Whether you like it or not, when you're playing Paganini, you have to be showing off. So you can balance, I don't want it to be totally unawesome, that high note, but just whatever is, I basically was just thinking it could be more showy if you just zoom right back to there, because it felt a little bit secure. And I think something that can make Paganini really exciting is it being very much not secure, like kind of crazy. So try it one more time and just hurry back to those octaves and let's go on. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, keep going. That's so good. Sorry.
Okay.
so good. Again, the biggest thing is just a little bit flatter here. Did you just hear that sound right there?
I did.
Yeah, and it's hard to do. And I don't know how lots of bows warp out this way, which makes it really hard. Can I just see your bow? Is it warped out a little bit, maybe? Can I see? It's not too bad, but actually it's great. So, so you're lucky because it's really hard on a warped bow to not play exclusively on the side. But if you can just practice slowly, aiming basically for the middle of the hair in this place, it improves the clarity and everything. Right there when you had the piano, basically what, I've lost my place. Do you kind of know where I'm talking about? Play the piano part again. Down bow piano, up bow forte.
Okay.
Because what will often happen is you go so you really kind of need to overplay the up bow.
Okay.
Yeah, did you feel like you were playing really loud on the up bows?
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. I mean, it just sounded clear out here, right? Yeah. So the places like that, I couldn't tell at all that you're playing forte. I could just hear it better. And so sometimes there are these, it's really hard. Violin's such a physical instrument, you know. When you're putting energy into the violin, you probably feel like you're playing forte. Sometimes you might be putting too much energy in. Or, you know, and if you're playing piano, you know, and you have that little up bow thing, it feels totally wrong to go with a really muscular up bow. But you kind of have to fight that, you know, what feels physically right is sometimes you're kind of playing into the difficulty of a spot. So that's one of those places. How much time do I have, by the way?
You're about there.
Yeah, you played it a little too well. There's not much to talk about. Why don't we go for and this flat hair and just maybe mezzo piano instead of piano. Okay, try it again.
So bouncy with flat hair.
Yeah, I know. And that's the thing. It becomes much easier to bounce. You know, if you're trying to bounce the bow in anything, just think about it. If I drop, not this bow, but something that looks just like it, and I just wanted it to bounce like a basketball, does that make sense? To get a good bounce, or does that make sense? You know, it's gonna bounce back at me if I go boom, boom, boom. And so when you're trying to play really bouncy stuff, it becomes really easy, especially like ricochet. Becomes the easiest trick on the violin because all you do is just, you know, just drop the bow, literally. So try this again and just play it a little bit louder, and not louder, more bow. Don't think louder, don't think more like energy down in, just more bow.
Okay.
Same thing. More up bow. More up bow.
Okay.
And by the way, so that's a place we don't need a. I think I wouldn't lengthen that F too much.
Okay.
It's after that. It's in the technical stuff that I would think more bow, more clarity.
Okay.
Yes. It's great. It's just that little bit of added clarity. So basically, if something's not clear, whether it's this piece or Mozart Concerto or solo Bach or anything, add bow to it. That's usually the best. Add bow and time. That usually clears it up really well. Anyway, bravo.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Beautiful. first of all, it sounds great. I think this is a piece, there's so many, it actually reminds me a lot of Korngold Concerto, and that may sound bizarre, but they're both pieces that there are periods of a lot of dissonance for a long time, and then it resolves. And I think that you have to really, really get creative and really play with a lot of intention in the places in between the really tonal and like really beautiful parts, because otherwise, as a listener, it's easy to get kind of lost in those sections. And I mean, I say this about this piece. I mean, if you have that approach to Mozart and Bach and everything, you're always just trying to really make sense of the notes and really use your imagination, get really creative with it. That's what makes a good performance, is, you know, having very strong opinions about what you're playing. That's kind of the most important thing. Anyway, let's go right at the beginning. Just a quick technical thing. I was kind of hearing a more down bow than up bow. Ba-da-dum, bum, bum, ba-da-dum, bum, bum. Give me a nice kick on that first up bow, okay? Just right on it. So, I see you going. I would go. I'd scoop that out. Well, I guess I'm coming off too, but I just want you to scoop that out. There's not enough bow. You're getting a little kind of bee sting, kind of like that. Think 1 inch of bow. That's all you really need. Yeah, that's better. Here, 1 second. Play that. You don't need a lot of muscle on this. In fact, I wouldn't be gripping the bow very hard at all. I just basically be holding onto it. And yeah, basically, I think you can experiment with this. It needs to not just be like, oh, I got a good articulation. It needs to be easy. And what I mean by that is, if it's not loose, if it's not really repeatable and kind of easy, then it might never get really consistent. And so I'd experiment with kind of different, kind of where, you know, which finger is getting all the pressure, is getting all the weight and everything. And I think you basically just need it might actually be that you're too far over on your first finger. So try to kind of play in the middle of your hand this time. I might be totally wrong, but let's try that. Try it maybe a little bit farther away from the frog one time. Yeah, great. So anyway, keep working with it. I think maybe you want to spread your fingers out and try it. Yeah, actually, let's try this spread out fingers one. Let's see if it works. Yeah, and just keep experimenting with it. Let's get into let's get right there. And what I think, so we have, this is as short and it's so I really kind of, I'd use quite a lot of bow and try to play that quite smooth. Can you just go right on that? Yeah, no, it's great, it's great. Now, each of the notes sounds too similar. So, you the notes go up, you know, react to that. So a little bit of burst of bow, just some reaction. Yeah, but a little bit more. Here's if he just goes. And that's a little bit of a missed opportunity, I think. So Yeah, you're very much, you're playing the violin super, super well. You're playing this really well. And I think just what I could hear more from you is more imagination on little things like that. You know what I mean? You're absolutely at that point where you can start doing that. And it takes confidence to practice like that and to, for that to be the goal. But I find that's actually the very quickest way to improve on the violin. So there's kind of an idea, I practiced like this for a long time, where it's like, okay, I'm gonna get the notes and then I'm gonna get musical. I'm gonna get the technique right and then get musical. First of all, that's not very fun, because then it's just kind of like math class, and then I'm gonna have the fun after everything's ready. And then also you're gonna have to relearn how to play the piece, trying to play it musically. So you can start like from day one, trying to be musical on something. I mean, and not just generically musical, it's just like, where does this phrase end? What's the most important note? Usually that's on a downbeat, and just kind of go for it in those ways. Anyway, right on the. Right here. Okay, so this is a place, we need a little bit of, because it's kind of weird. What? I don't even know how to do that. So try to maybe, instead of just going maybe a smoother stroke this time. It says détaché, which literally means detached, and you can kind of, there's a broad definition there. So I don't know, just a little less solid sound here, I think would be nice. Can you try to just sit and let it be in the upper half? Let's just see how that sounds. Yeah, and then what you can do is you can kind of work your way to the frog. Yeah, so just as a general rule, you want to be switching up, not just, I'm playing this note louder and I'm playing this note softer. If you're playing right here for 3 measures in a row, that's way too long. You know what I mean? I shouldn't say that, of course, we can find 3 measures where it makes sense, but just the point is to be using in a different zip code in the bow for different parts, So it's going to get more interesting if you go tip to frog, something like that. And that's a more creative use of that. Let's do the next one. Next entrance. So let's do that with piano. Sorry, one more time. Bar 28. And then can you even more bow on that? Try it again, and just let the bow go to the tip on the F sharp, and then the C sharp can be a reaction to that. So. Great start, because it was kind of this, where are we, that's a really cool note, when we go, so right before that D, getting into the D, so you're going from basically your whole measure, 2 measures, 1.5 measures, starting on this, and it's just a bunch of, where are we? D. So can you we need a little bit more preparation for when you snap back into Can you try that again?
Yeah.
Just right on your entrance. So can you really crescendo, really big crescendo into the yeah, and even kind of like physically, you know. So in your technique, and also kind of show it to us. Not just for Whitney, but for us too. We want to know, where are we? It's kind of harmonically, whoa. And that's why I was saying it reminds me of Korngold Concerto. There's a lot of like long periods of like, huh? Oh, that kind of thing. And you have to show, if it just goes straight from what into, oh, I like this, what? Oh, I like this. Then it gets kind of exhausting as a listener to be like, where are we going to next? So you need to be a tour guide for us. You need to show us, kind of present things to us. Try it again. Keep going. Keep going. Well, let's just go maybe right before the next entrance. So we haven't had truly anything like really, really melodic yet. And I heard that was the first pretty note. I would have I'd be really, from the very first, just your nicest sound. Try to vibrate that very first thing. Yeah. So this is interesting. My history with this piece is that I played, I think, in the orchestra one time, like in my teens, and it's been a long time since there. And I remember, this. I absolutely love this part. Like, I thought it was the prettiest thing ever. And I did not know that that's the rhythm. Boom, bum, boda. I thought it was or something like that. So that's a real decision as a composer. It'd be very easy for him to go. Something like that. There's something very kind of expressive about the. And then that triplet, I think, can be really broad and smooth with that. Can you try it again? Just right on that beautiful theme. One second. Your best sound right from the get-go. just da da ya da. I would lilt just da da ya da. Play that second. Play this E. Just a skosh longer than you're comfortable with. Try to be late to this. Yes. Yeah, and then that going down there. I had to warm up like crazy on that C sharp. You've probably worked on that rhythm. When in doubt, play too slow in a triplet. So if you want something to sound really triplety, be a little too quick to 2. That is it's too quick, but it's clear that I'm attempting a triplet. But if I go, it can turn into that. Maybe this is not the best example, but in lots of other pieces, like first movement of Lalo and stuff like that, that's a good. So anyway, can we try, let's just try the bar of triplets. Maybe the bar before it. And that's a really, really expressive thing. That's, when a composer does something like that, it's more similar to an accent or a crescendo. It's like that rhythm is an accent. It's a really, important thing. So it's something to be expressed. It's not just something to be done correctly. So play the triplet bar a little slower. Perfect. And then right there, when you go down like that, I would scoop it. That's decorative. It doesn't need to be there. That quintuplet right there. It's totally, He could have done 4, which doesn't sound quite as fancy. I love that. That's so nice. So I'd really bring it out. Don't let it kind of go by. So that's kind of my advice in this whole section and in the whole thing is that I was talking earlier about Bach and Mozart versus Beethoven sonata. You get a lot of indications in a Beethoven sonata, forte, piano, sforzando, accent, blah, blah, blah. In Bach, you get none of that. You just get really, this chord, articulation and everything, and the chord itself, and the rhythm are like really, really interesting, expressive markings. And that's what this is too. There's not a whole lot. He just gave you mezzo, forte, espressivo. Of course, it would be, it'd be really boring to play the whole thing exactly the same decibel. This is my mezzo, forte, decibel, and just play the whole thing. You got to be really, really expressive in there. And that's, how much time do we have? Okay, my general advice is just to, if you really like a note, really show it to the audience. And there's a lot to like in there, Anyway, you sound great. Wonderful. Okay, great job. Sounds really, really good. My first thing that I want to say is, so it seems that you have a habit of looking right here. This is a very common habit, you're kind of looking off to the side while you play. I would really start in your practice room and kind of, whenever you have something like this or everything, really try to look at your hands. Because it's some, it can be awkward when you perform. You're like, where do I look? I don't want to make eye contact, which you're, absolutely right. Eye contact with the audience is not a good thing. It's really, really awkward when, you're sitting there watching somebody playing and they're like, So you're right not to be looking at people, but I think when you do this, it makes it a little physically harder to play the violin. When you do this, it just, your hands kind of release and everything, it gets a little easier. And then the other thing is that for lots of just basic intonation and bow control and things like that, if you're looking at your hands, your eyes are just an added tool, in your toolkit of playing the violin. So I'd start training your eyes on what you're doing. Let's start at the beginning. I just want to say Sibelius Concerto is it's such a famous piece, and it's played so often. And I'd say like one of the hardest things to do is to play all the rhythms exactly right. And an accent here, no accent here, that kind of thing is really, really rare to hear it played exactly how he wrote it. And I kind of want to go into some of those things. But let's just start at the beginning again. And it was such a nice beginning. One thing that I want you to work on is, I heard, and it's fine actually to, see how I tried to start it later, but the ittiest bittiest, it's like shading. You don't want to just go from absolutely nothing on the paper to bam, Sharpie marker sort of vibrato. You want to go like this and then just. So you can either try vibrating right at the beginning of the note or that slow. I'm just going to warm up the sound towards the end. Right on your entrance. Sorry, just one second. So, try not to. I think it's even written that the small notes are. So you want to. I like that you're separating it, everything. There's clarity and everything, but I want you to disguise it. So. Really melt from down bow into up bow there. Just right on that. Yeah. Yeah, great. So you did a really good triplet this time. It's funny, I've talked a lot about that triplet so many times, and then I heard a recording of myself playing it. I'm exaggerating, but it's really fun. It's hard to play that triplet. It's really hard to not be late to the second. I'd be a little bit even. This was really good. But that B is a really painful note. It's a really expressive. Like really make the argument for the triplet. Let's come into it from before. And da dee da da. Your down bow automatically is a stronger note. You have to do something extra on an up bow to make a down bow and an up bow even. So if you go normal down bow, normal up bow, that's probably going to sound like da 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 da. Da, dee, da, da. Just try it just for me because I'm kind of, this is like I love this triplet. Just, so, you don't have to use the whole bow. Just kind of scoop that B. 6 inches more bow on that bow. Yeah, it's awesome. And then it gives you this really nice momentum. your first forte, which should be, you know. But save it. Don't be early there. You're playing a little bit. I'll play it with you one time. Right on it. Keep going. Yeah. Yeah, and then keep going. Sorry. Just saying it was good. Interesting marking right here. It goes accent, accent, nothing. And I think he really, that's on purpose. And then nothing on the B flat again. So it's, you know, this is not happy music. It's a really dark piece of music. And it's really intentionally uncomfortable. And we go, when you play it like, it can sound kind of like, you know, it's not like happy, but it can sound kind of quirky and fun. I don't know, but. And this. From a G to a C sharp is the tritone, which is the most dissonant chord you can get. So it's a really, really expressive note. And the anti-accent, the non-accent, is actually more of an accent, like, you know, drawing attention to that note than putting the accent on it. So this time it's really hard because it's at the frog, but try to really be smooth at the beginning of that C sharp. But Hey, watch what you're doing. Yeah, so I just want to show you. So you're leaning forward a lot when you play. You're not going to get your best sound. You know, try to put the violin out to your left. Yeah, now you're playing you want to play taller than you are, not shorter than you are. You know, you want to expand when you're, especially a big solo role like Sibelius, you know, that's you have to kind of think of yourself like an actor in a play. You're not like the feeble character on the side of the stage, kind of, you know, you're the star of the show and you got to be really kind of, yeah. Yes, that looks excellent. But no accent on that C sharp. Yeah, and then look over here. So you had about 2 notes and then you went straight back to the floor. So really try to look over there. Yeah. Yeah, and then same thing there. That's more unsettling. It's more unpredictable than. It's all just weird. Woo-ha. You know, it's a kind of spooky beginning. It's scary. So it's a little scarier if you play those. 1 second. So, let's try to do smooth C sharp, smooth B flat. But I think we have a crescendo into that. So into a really subito, sudden piano. So let's try to just make this as scary as possible. So it's actually an easy thing to do because you just use a ton of bow and then you're at the tip, which is the weakest part, and you're doing this harmonic up the D string. So you don't even have to try that hard to lighten up. The technique of the bow is doing it for you. So just kind of use a bunch of bow and see what happens. So a lot more bow. I do the whole bow. Yeah, great. Yeah, try it one more time. Yeah, and then what you can do is just let it go. Just let it go. So you're whole bow, whoa. Just kind of like that. Just pull up. Great. Okay, and let's go on from there. I think the first time you're a little bit late to that. Okay. Are we just right at time?
No, we're over it.
Okay. Dang. So what I would just say going forward is it's a really unsettling piece, and you should lean into the unsettlingness of it. So there were some places where I could tell you're taking a rest. You kind of went like this. And when you do that, we rest with you. You see when I do that, just physically, you have to show that you're still not quite in a good mood or relaxed. Anyway, bravo.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much to Will.
Thank you guys. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you. And thank you to Whitney.
Woo! Yes! Woo!